Hello, Cosplay World! Today we're going to be talking about cutting PVC, specifically PVC, plastic, Sentra. I think there's another name in the UK for it as well, but whatever the case may be. Now, there's lots of options here, and I want to explore my specific choices in this matter. Almost all of my cuts are done by 4 tools. 4 tools pretty much get anything I need done. Okay, we're going to start with the industry standard. That is because this starts off as not really cosplay use, as it starts off as using it in, manufacturing, whatever the case may be. And in a warehouse, box cutter is kind of a easily obtainable tool. And guess what? It works reasonably well, as you might imagine. The technique is referred to as score and snap. The idea is, of course, to score and snap. It works, it gets the job done, but we want things to be pretty, and if I can get the camera to catch the light on this, yeah, it ain't pretty. It ain't exactly the greatest thing in the world there. So if you're looking for a nice clean edge, you might want to skip this idea here. It's pretty much only good for straight lines. If you've got curved lines, guess what? It ain't going to work out so well. Let's see if I can do a curved one. It takes a bit more patience to score this. That's because, of course, a box cutter is much better at straight lines. And there we go. Now it's not exactly the shape I wanted, and then we got these extra edges over here, and then not pretty, not what you want. But it gets the job done. If you're not worried about that, if you're going to finish it, who cares? Big deal. It saves you a lot of time, effort, and all that. You can, of course, if you're willing to run along the line a few times, cut completely through it. I prefer, when I'm doing this, to cut all the way to the edges, just because it makes it a little easier. For me, anyway. To then bend it a little bit, exposing the cut, and then cutting a little bit deeper. There you go. That trick might also work with the score, and you also run the risk of not exactly being on the line. So I like to open it up a little bit. Alright, so that's fine. Just a little bit of cleaning up, no big deal, right? I could have done a better job. I could have cut into my board a bit more, but I don't want to do that at this time. Sorry guys. So it's reasonably good at say 1 to 1 foot straight lines. We'll say 6 inches, which should be moderately straight lines. But curves, not gonna do the job. For curves, say I want this curve cut out here. Oh my god, I had it already drawn out. I'm going to go with my Japanese dovetail saw here. It's a pull saw. And if you haven't seen the video on this, you want to look for a Japanese pull saw. If it looks like this is what you're looking for. Maybe I'll do a video on this specifically. So, the great thing about this is that the profile of the blade is really thin for a blade. It's like a 1/4 or 1/2 millimeter, maybe 1/3 of a millimeter. So it's really thin. And that means there's less drag, there's less crap to kind of pull up, and you get a smoother cut. It's very sharp as well, as you might imagine. It also cuts along this edge, yay, and it follows the curve fairly well. I could get a tighter curve. This curve on the outside was actually cut with the saw as well. The problem here is, if I can catch this in the light as well, is that you get kind of a little bit of jaggy things like here and here and here. It's not too bad, but when you're looking at the finer points of your cut work, that might come into play. And I just want to make sure everyone understands the differences in finishes when you're doing this kind of thing. Yes, well, this can do some very nice large sweeping curves very evenly. That's very nice when you're making something like just large sweeping curves, like a dress curve, okay, or hip curve. Now, say we want something that's a little bit more complex, like say this cut. We can't really get into this with the saw, or it's not going to really work out very well. We can, however, go in from the sides, of course, and sometimes I like to do this because I have a bit more control with the handle on this tool, and because I can go a bit slower, and because it's inside, or in the profile blade is in the plastic itself, there's less chance of me messing myself, which is kind of one of those things you worry about when you're cutting things, is cutting yourself up. This one presents a moderate amount of risk. This one too, the worst case scenario is if you're pressing too hard and you go off and some bad stuff happens. So, you know, be patient, of course. Now, this, I tend to use, I'll use a box cutter for straight lines that are on the inside. It's kind of more work, obviously, than the saw. As you can see, I'm making much slower progress. There we go, and I'm going to try and line this up with this edge on the inside. But you know, it's a little bit easier than that for those curved, those little teeny tiny cuts that are on the inside. Of course, you can't use a saw. Is the hot knife, and as I instinctively started doing, I can press the blade right on through inside there. There it goes, right on in. Press it straight on through, bam, and complete the cut. Now, the thing you need to worry about this, of course, is that it's hot and a knife. So if you do too much pressure, you can snap the head off, or you can end up flying off once you've done a cut and cut yourself quite significantly. It's not great. And there we are. Now, this tool, if you have not seen my video on the hot knife specifically, is extremely good at getting curves. It's a little less because you have more freedom. You can less good at doing straight curves or straight lines because, of course, you have more room to wiggle around. It also is very good at getting these places where, of course, a box cutter would have extremely difficult time, and don't even try with this. Not happening. It's going to be a pain in the butt. Okay. Sometimes you've already thermoformed your plastic, and then you make edits for later on. Hot knife is where you want to go with that. However, for long, clean cuts like this, you don't want that. You don't want the hot knife. It's not going to work out for you so well. You definitely want to go for the saw for the longer, smoother curves here, because the blade, of course, is the profile. The general rule of thumb here, as I reveal my fourth tool here, is the larger the blade, the smoother the overall curve you're going to get. Of course, or line, or whatever the case may be. Of course, that leaves you with less detail work that you can do. So this is, of course, for fine detail work, less detail work, and then much more curved. And this is almost specifically for cutting out large pieces of straight lines that I need to make for like a full chest plate, or to cut up my fresh 4-foot by 8-foot sheets of plastic. It has a much heavier profile of the blade. As you can see, it's much thicker. The teeth are much larger, so it's much rougher of a pull. But if I need a really straight line or a really long length, this is the way it goes. It doesn't bend nearly as much, so it's good for that. Most of my work is done with this. This is more specialty cases where I can't get anywhere, but it's not suitable for the hot knife. And one thing I want to talk about with the hot knife is that it will only take a certain amount of pressure. 1/8 inch PVC sheeting is just fine, no big deal. Up to 1/4 is just fine. After that, it stops producing enough heat to reasonably cut through the entirety of the plastic, in which case you're putting too much pressure on the blade and you're being less effective. So any thicker plastic than that, you're going to have trouble. So don't try and cut any kind of thing with any kind of plastic thicker than 1/4 inch. It's just going to be rough. Try a different tool if you can. Try a power tool. It'll probably be a reasonable choice there. This is just for, of course, the hand tools. If you have a power tool, good on you. You probably don't need this explanation, but this is for beginner cosplayers who just need basic tips for not wasting too much money and seeing what works and what doesn't work with their tools. And something they, of course, can use at home in their room or in their shed or whatever the case may be. Garage. Oh well. So that pretty much covers it, and with the different kinds of cuts that are really well done with these tools. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Good times to all. Hey, Cosplay, before I finish up this video, I want to say thanks for everyone who likes and subscribes. But the people who comment, you guys have a special place in my heart. It really does keep me motivated. I don't know. I do try to talk to you a one-on-one, but maybe someday I'll have enough questions and so on to do like a regular Monday Q&A session like I used to. But for now, I just try and spread the information and love I have for all you cosplayers out there. I don't know if you know someone who needs help. If you see someone who could use a heads up and maybe is new to the cosplay community, maybe hasn't seen some of these kind of informational videos, let them know. It really helps me out. I'm gonna go make more vids, have some fun, make some stuff, do cosplay things. Thanks for watching, guys. Good times to all.